Hey everybody.
Hello.
I believe we're live, right?
I think so.
Looks live, I think.
Looks lively.
I'm Jayel Draco. I am a co-founder and the lead designer and lead illustrator of Oneshi Press.
I am Lynsey G, and I am also a co-founder and the editor-in-chief and the editor-general word person at Oneshi Press.
And so right now we're here to talk to you about Children of Gaia.
Woo!
And this is our campaign that is currently live on Kickstarter, but it's from an ongoing epic series that I've been working on pretty much since I was old enough to start working on anything. And I realize, a lot of people don't necessarily understand this campaign or who it's for or what it is, because we like to do things differently and outside of the box and give people exciting, fun things that they didn't know they were into. But that's also it's a hard sell. It's hard to talk about. The campaign is fully funded and it's doing all right, but I think it could be doing a lot better.
Yeah, I think it could reach more people.
We're really excited with what we're doing with One Tree Planted, where for every single backer on every Kickstarter campaign we do, we have a tree planted for that backer. So right now we have 38 backers on Children of Gaia, and so that's 38 trees that are going to be planted through onetreeplanted.org, which is a global reforestation program. And, we're hoping to get a lot more than 38 trees planted.
And we also want more than 38 people to enter into the Children of Gaia sci-fi fantasy universe, and we think that actually this campaign is a really good way to introduce yourself to the series in a really, immersive way.
So I think what I want to do is explain the products a little bit. What the campaign is actually for, what you're getting when you back the campaign. But I also want to explain the series a little bit and the overall through line of the series, because we're telling this story in a very interesting way. It's a little roundabout. There's a lot of vignettes that take place from a lot of different characters' perspectives that all tie into this world and create a larger picture, which is really immersive, really in-depth, really exciting, and very dimensional. It's not this two-dimensional story of this one person on the one quest. It's all of these different characters experiencing this time on this place from completely different walks of life, different angles, even different areas of the world. And with that, you get a lot of different kinds of exciting elements, and we want to talk a little bit more about that. But I think starting with what we have on this live campaign now would be a pretty good place to start, right?
Okay, sure.
So, for example, we have the game, which we're calling a TTRPG Zine, and that might be a little bit of a misnomer, which might confuse folks.
It's also a bit of a mouthful.
It's also a mouthful. And then we also have a comic, which is the latest, newest comic in the series. And then we also have a coloring book, right? So some folks might be like, well,
Feels a little all over the place.
Maybe I like games, but I don't like comics or coloring. Or maybe I like comics, but I don't like games or coloring. Or maybe I like coloring, but I don't like comics or games. Or, really all three of these things are just various explorations into this high fantasy story. And the coloring book is creatures from the story. It is beautifully illustrated. Even if you don't want to color it, just looking through it, it is gorgeous. Gorgeous black and white line art.
It's so imaginative. So the artist, Shadowwind, we've actually been working with her for a while on helping us develop sort of the natural world of this sci-fi fantasy landscape. So she's been working with us on coming up with awesome fantasy creatures, and this coloring book that she's made is of a specific region in this fantasy world where she has come up with creatures that would fit into that landscape. And plants
job.
And insects, it's so cool.
And she's also working on an illustrated novel with us that will be coming out in the future. We actually have a lot of books planned from the Children of Gaia series, and this is a great jumping on point. The other thing that we have is a comic from Chris Cavelli, who co-developed Children of Gaia with me starting back in the mid-90s. So we've
the
been...
1900s!
Yeah, what? We've
the
been
1900s.
working on Children of Gaia
When we had
since
rotary phones.
before color. When we were on black and white horse-drawn carriages, we had pagers and payphones, no internet yet. We were working on Children of Gaia since before we had internet. I'm not kidding. That's weird.
And rotary phones, people. Rotary phones!
Do you even know what a payphone is? Or a beeper? Jeez. So, yeah, we've had a long time to develop this. And because we started on it so young together, it developed us. Like, our trajectory as creative individuals, as people, has been largely guided by what we can do for Children of Gaia. And our education has been guided by it, our development, like all of that has gone into how can we make this better. And now, all these years later, like nearly 30 years later, we have a team working on it with us, including Lynsey G, including Shadowwind, and including Peter Lampasona, Jenny Williamson, a few other really talented, really brilliant minds working on Children of Gaia with us.
And I've actually been working on it with you for about a decade now.
Yeah.
So
10 years.
But the interesting thing is, maybe this is more part of the conversation for later after we move through the products, but Children of Gaia is definitely our biggest series at Oneshi Press. It has the most coming, but we haven't actually released that much of it as standalone projects. The first Children of Gaia book that we released was before we were using Kickstarter. So it came out, and it's actually been one of our best sellers, but it's not, we haven't done a whole campaign for it in like an awareness raising so much. And then we also did War and Horses, which is another Children of Gaia illustrated book, which takes place in a very different part of the world.
I wasn't really on camera.
Oh, okay. That was a Kickstarter, but it was years ago. And since then, I think this was in 2018 or 2019 on Kickstarter, and since then we actually haven't had a Children of Gaia focused campaign. We have had short comics from Children of Gaia in many of our comics anthologies, but we haven't really focused on Children of Gaia. So that's one reason that we wanted to do this video, is kind of tell you a little more about
These
it.
are big clunking books too. They're no joke. I mean, we're talking 150 pages, fully illustrated, 8.5 by 11. I mean, it's not a tiny book.
Oh, hello. Hi,
hey,
Yuki.
Yuki. There's a lot of art in here, a lot of cool immersive storytelling.
And both of these books are available on the Kickstarter, also, FYI, if you're interested.
And both of these books are written from the perspective of a fictional author in the story. So this book is written by Jan Kazian, and this book is written by Landon Ford, and both of them are characters in this world who have published these books in this world. And they're both from very different perspectives, and it's really cool, really exciting, very fun angle on storytelling. And we have a few more books planned like this that are told from the perspective of characters in the world.
There's at least 3 in development right now.
Right. Great Nations, we're almost entirely out of, so there's very few left of the paperbacks. And the hardcovers, we actually only had 50 made, and they are numbered, signed and numbered limited edition hardcovers, and 5 of them were upgraded into metal hardcovers. So there's
shiny.
There's only 45 hardcovers in existence, and only 5 metal hardcovers in existence. And they are only going to accrue in value as Children of Gaia gets more popular, which it has been doing. So, you know, we're hoping that for those super collectors out there, that will be like the hot item. Let me show you this metal hardcover. And then for people who just want to check out this book I'm talking about, Great Nations, look at that. Oh, man. There's only 5 of these in existence, and they are available as add-ons on this Kickstarter. Now, if anyone wants to check out Great Nations, but like doesn't want to, you know, get the ultra metal, super rare hardcover, like we also have the 2nd edition print at regular price.
Why don't we talk a little bit about what
it is?
Great Nations is?
Yeah. So, Great Nations is a story written by Jan Kazian, who is an Elvereshi, or what you might think of as an elf, and he's living in this kind of connected metropolis of cultural hubs that they call the Great Nations. And these Great Nations, each one of them serves a different social function, and they're kind of spread out across Rendaraia, which is this very magical realm. And these nations were attacked and destroyed systematically, one by one. And Jan Kazian is a survivor in a refugee camp, and he was a scholar. So in his life, he studied all of the cultures and histories of the great nations and collaborative surrounding nations. And he's very afraid that his libraries were torched and other scholars, he doesn't know if anyone else survived or escaped. So he's very afraid that he might be one of the last people alive with this information in his head. So he is spending night and day writing these books to record it, and to record what happened, to record what the civilizations were like. And this book, Great Nations, is one of his works. So I wrote it and illustrated it, but I wrote it and illustrated it in his style. I tried to imagine what this character's way of talking and drawing would sound and look like, and write it and draw it as if I was him. So kind of like method acted, but for creators, right? It's method creating. And, I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, lots of positive feedback on it, and I really think that this book deserves to be on more shelves and in more hands, inspiring more people.
So it's sort of a lore book. It kind of gives you a lot of the background,
yeah, totally,
of the series, which, let's talk for a minute about what Children of Gaia is about.
Sure.
So basically the sort of simple version of it, I suppose, is that there are two realms. One is Rendaraia, which is where Great Nations it takes place, and it's much more of a fantasy world. There's magic. There's nature is very, very strong and vast, and magic and nature really work together. There's a lot of harmony in the world. And in the other realm, Terra, it's much more like an Earth situation. Whereas there are elves in Rendaraia, there are humans in Terra. And there's war, there's famine, and
imperial technocracies vying for power.
Yeah, good way of putting it.
They're kind of like currently when the story, well, I shouldn't say currently because the story does span quite a timeline,
yeah.
But where we mostly jump in on the story, they're like circa World War II tech mostly, give or take. In some ways, they're less advanced than, humans of Earth in World War II, but in some ways they're a little bit more advanced. But they're pretty much around that era of tech. And so you have people with cannons and rifles and Gatling guns fighting elves with magic missiles and lightning bolts. So
let's go back a bit. So these two realms end up colliding. And the people in the Terran Empire, at the Empire of Celis, basically realize that Rendaraia is a gold mine, and they decide they're going to go in there and take what they can get, and this leads to war. And one of the things that actually really leads to the war happening is a fight over mage stones. Doo-doo-doo. So these are actually, we have made gaming dice to look like the mage stones of Rendaraia, which are some of the most powerful magical relics in existence. And
thanks, Nicole.
They more or less cause the war because the Empire wants them, and of course the people of Mithera, who control most of them, do not want them to have them, and war breaks out and ravages the lands. And most of the story of Children of Gaia takes place during this war. But one of the very cool things about the campaign that we're running right now is that we're introduced to the Mage Stones, really kind of see them for the first time in the storytelling. and we get to see some of the destruction that their presence has wrought. But we also get some backstory on what happened before war broke out over the Mage Stones. So that's where the comic that Chris Covelli and Lacerda and Cardinal Ray put together comes in. It's a little bit of sort of the backstory of when diplomatic relations were going to try to work out how to share the power of the Mage Stones before war erupted. And it's really beautiful, and it's very nuanced storytelling, gorgeous imagery, and really very revealing of a lot of the characters that end up being the big deal characters in the main story.
So this all takes place actually before the book Great Nations, and even the book Great Nations is retrospective. Jan Kazian is talking about what happened, whereas this story is talking about what led up to it. And I think War and Horses also takes place a little bit after all these events too, right?
Yes,
quite a bit after,
that,
after Great Nations, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Triggerman would have been a kid during this.
During diplomacy, yeah.
Yep.
I'm not sure what age he would have been in Great Nations.
I think they're around the same time.
Okay. Well, so anyway, check out these dice. We just got, this is our first pair that we actually have in hand, so we've been kind of obsessed with them.
They're so cool.
So as you can see, there's a little round ball in there, and that actually is the Mage Stone, which is comprised of matter and soul energy from elven sorcerers. So an elven sorcerer and high-powered elves of a certain study sect have their soul energy sometimes turned into these Mage Stones, which are extremely powerful magical relics which can be used in a number of ways. They can also produce a huge amount of energy, which is what the Terran Empire wants them for.
Right. So if you use their energy, you destroy the Mage Stone like a battery.
Yeah.
But if you don't use it for its energy, if you use it for guidance and amplification, you can use them indefinitely. And the reason why they're so important is because a sorcerer would have to decide, while they're alive, that they want to leave this behind for future generations. And instead of, dissipating or whatever happens at death, they collect themselves into these stones to leave that behind. So it's like a really special, really big thing that you have to be very powerful to be able to do. And you also have to have a great deal of sense of social responsibility toward future generations to be willing to do it. So they're rare, and they're powerful, and they're important, they're irreplaceable. So naturally, when you have a technocratic empire that finds something rare, important, powerful, and irreplaceable, they want to destroy them all, and take them all, and use them all, right? Because that's just what empires do.
So you can't really see in this light, because we have all indoor lighting going on right now, but I've taken some photos that I think are up on most of our social media right now at Oneshi Press in the sunlight, where you can see that the Mage Stone inside is actually sort of glittery. It's shimmery. It's shimmery. And it's encased in this beautiful clear resin, hand-painted, hand-poured, handcrafted by Flutes Creations. I think they're some of the prettiest things I've ever seen, so I'm kind of obsessed with them. So, the reason that we made dice is because the other part of the campaign that we have running right now is a tabletop game that you can use dice for, that you need to use dice for.
Now, I think a lot of people, when they think of, tabletop game, it can feel very overwhelming because their first thought is oh no, do I need to know, D&D 5e or something? Do I have to read, 13 books before I can play this game? The answer is no. This is more like a board game. You could literally pick it up and play it your first time and have fun. You can play it with friends across the internet. There is a digital board that you can upload to your own room and invite whoever you want from wherever to play with you.
From 2 to 12 players.
Yep, 2 to 12 players from anywhere around the world, so you can have friends on the other side of the globe playing with you, and no one else can enter your room without your invite. It's really cool. It's really fun. It takes 15 minutes to an hour to play, depending on how many players you have and how thoughtful you are about your moves.
Yeah. It can totally be a dice rolling slugfest, or you can be more strategic. You can play it however you like. And basically, you get to choose if you're going to be an attack squad of invading soldiers from the Terran Empire coming after the Mage Stones, or if you're going to be an elven sorcerer, a mag, protecting the Mage Stones. And it's a very fun game. It's simple to play, but it also really lets you sort of get into this fantasy world of Children of Gaia in a much more immersive way, and that's one reason that we're so excited about it. We think it's a great entry point to an awesome series.
Now, I had someone say, well, what if I just want the comic and I don't want the zine, the game zine, because I don't want to play games? Also, I'll tell you, the game zine is mostly art and backstory and is entertaining even if you have no interest in playing the game. I made the game zine.
Yeah, it's beautifully
fun
illustrated
and interesting, and
it is a lore book.
Yeah,
unto
it's
itself.
a lore book unto itself.
Yeah.
So even without wanting to play the game, the zine is still a valid part of the series.
Right. Yeah. And I think that these three things together, the one way that they work together is that they're all taking place in and around Mithera, which is a part of Rendaraia where the elves have, for thousands of years, devoted themselves to the study of magic. So, the scholarly applications, the actual practice of it, what it means, the spiritual aspects, all of that is their thing. And those are the people who create mage stones. So, the comic takes place in Mithera when the negotiations over the Mage Stones are starting. Then we move forward a few decades to the Mag Tower Siege, which is when war has broken out and the Terran Empire is dead set on getting these Mage Stones no matter what, and they're advancing on a tower of mags, trying to take them by force. And the coloring book takes place in Mithera, which is the land where sort of all of this is happening and where magic is sort of soaked into the soil and the plants and the animals. So all of this is really tied together very much by the Mage Stones. The cat is trying to get us to feed him. We thought maybe we'd pick him up for a minute, but that was a no-go.
So, yeah, and then, so with this campaign, you can also get several other comics that we've done in PDF form. Are they available as add-ons through the Kickstarter or
Yes.
just in backer kit?
No, they're all available in Kickstarter, and they will be available in backer.
So you can get them a la carte in case there's a few you've already read and some that you haven't, or if one speaks to you more than others and you're on a budget. But all of those comics are each told about a different character and a different part of the story and a different a different path.
Yeah.
And sometimes even in vastly different timelines, or not timelines, time periods.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've been thinking about this a lot lately. We've been watching the Star Wars shows as they've been coming out.
Oh, you're hooked. Hold on.
Cat problems.
There we go.
Okay. This is Chalathor. He's named after a character in Children of Gaia, actually. Wait, what was I saying? I lost it.
Cat.
I lost it. No idea. Got distracted by the cat.
Catstraction.
Yeah. Hi, buddy. He's like, what the heck, you guys? You're supposed to be feeding me snacks.
You got this catted. Oh, chow.
Yeah. Yeah, something, Children of Gaia.
Something,
stuff.
something,
okay.
cat.
We've been watching the Star Wars shows and movies as they come out, and I think that the way that we're telling the Children of Gaia story is sort of like the opposite of the way that Star Wars came out. So Star Wars came out with the first 3 movies, and that's sort of the core canon. And then more movies, and now there's movies and TV shows, and they're like telling the stories of the not main characters in more and more depth over time. And what we've been doing with Children of Gaia is sort of the opposite of that. So we already have the core of the core canon story mostly developed, but we're not releasing that yet. Instead, we're starting with small stories about characters who are all important, but not necessarily the main story yet. So we're going sort of from the outskirts in as we move forward through the series. So we have a bunch of short comics, most of which were released in our comics anthologies over the years. Those so far only exist in in those anthologies and in digital format as standalones. So you can get all of those, through our campaign, and it'll give you an idea, reading those comics, of sort of the breadth and the depth of the Children of Gaia universe. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm so glad I remembered.
So yeah, I think, some key takeaways that I would like to leave with people is that, whether or not you're a gamer, this campaign has a lot to offer, and I just don't want people thinking like, oh, you said game, therefore it's not for me. Or, oh, you said TTRPG, that's not the kind of game I like to play. This is a very unique game, but it's very story-driven, and even if you don't play the game, there's still a lot of backstory and art to be had there. And there's a lot of other books filled with really inspiring fantasy art from some really great creators that we've been really honored to work with. Mm-hmm. And I think that, anyone will be happy getting their hands on this. It's very much unlike anything, but it has a lot of elements of things that are widely enjoyed and appreciated.
True. All right. Well, I think we covered everything.
All right, folks.
Feel good about it.
Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or if there's anything else you want to know. We're happy to talk about it all the time. And we're probably going to go live a few more times about this. Anyway.
And also keep your eyes open for live gameplay, which we'll be doing a few times during this campaign.
Sure.
So if you want to check out the game, maybe during live streams on Twitch, but maybe we'll do some on here. I don't know.
Yeah, the amazing coloring book. I'm so excited to get my hands on it. I think I'm going to get a couple copies for myself to just play around with coloring, and then one to just treasure and keep in pristine shape.
And it bears mentioning that all of these things are available in digital or in print format. So, if you live overseas and shipping is a huge pain in your butt or something, you can get it all digitally.
Right.
You can color the coloring book digitally if that's your thing. Or you can get it in print. And we're going to have really nice prints of everything. Really excited about the coloring book, especially because we haven't done a coloring book before. So I'm psyched to see what that looks like. But you can do either or both.
All right. Well, all of you that are watching live, I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much, Yuki, for being in chat and just being active with us. And all of you that are watching in the future.
In the future.
What's it like?
Flying cars?
So, yeah, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Safe and swift, folks. Mwah.